left. We stand against treating anybody, and I love what Nikki said about this. We don't treat anybody different because of their race or their sex. So we have relegated DEI to the dustbin of history, which is exactly where it belongs. In the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore. And if you're an Asian, you don't have to talk around your skin color when you're applying for college, because we judge people based on who they are, not on ethnicity and things they can't control. We don't persecute you for being male, for being straight, for being gay, for being anything. The only thing that we demand is that you be a great American patriot, and if you're that, you are very much on our team.
Fuck yeah. Good morning, everybody. I'm a little sick today, which is horrible since I'm only doing this one day a week. But we're going to get through it. We're going to make a lot of good things happen today. A couple updates on the show. Also, I think I'm going to switch probably after the holidays. I'll probably go back to at least 2 days a week. I can't not do it at least 2 days a week. So I think it'll probably be like Monday and Thursday. I think those are the best days because there's a lot of economic data that comes on Thursday. This last Thursday was pretty huge. I don't know if you guys noticed that the inflation data came in really cool, and that has started our December Christmas rally. Can you guys in chat respond back? I just want to make sure that people are hearing me and seeing me. Let me see here real quick. It looks like it's probably working, but if somebody could respond in chat, I would really greatly appreciate it, just to make sure that things are working, because I can't quite... looks like it should be. All right. Again, respond in chat. Good news. Somebody put good news. I see a new chat. Hopefully that means I'm on. So... Let's just rehash a few things here real quick about things that have come and things that are things that have already passed and things that are coming. Also, if you noticed, we're sitting at 90,200. I've been talking about how everyone thinks that we're going down, and that for that reason we're going to go up, and especially with that economic data. Again, you just have to be crazy to think that we wouldn't go up. Oh, and wait a second, do we have Scott Bessent right now talking on Fox Business? We might segue to that real quick here, guys. One second. Let me just go back here. I got to hear this. I love my boy Scott. Got to hear what he has to say.
Americans in the new year due to the big, beautiful.
So we'll probably jump over to that. Oh, and maybe it's a pre-recording, but I do want to hear what he has to say.
First quarter, and I want to get your take on this. Watch this.
Let's go back. The one big beautiful bill was passed on July 4th, but for working Americans, it was retroactive to the beginning of the year. Most taxpayers did not change their withholding. Okay. So as a result, we're going to see very substantial 100 to 150 billion of refunds in the first quarter.
He's just talking about the refunds, and he's talking about stuff from last. Okay, so I was getting excited. I was thinking it was a new interview, but it's not. So we'll skip that. We'll jump back over here. So again, 90,250, getting exciting. I think that the economic data we got just reaffirms everything I've been saying, that tariffs aren't inflationary, and that if anything, we're seeing a reduction in economic activity. Manufacturing job data was still down, but that's a good thing, and we'll talk about why here in a little bit. But I see really good things happening in the future. We're on the right path. What we need to get past, and it doesn't look like we're going to get the Supreme Court decision this week, most likely. We're probably going to get it into the new year. That's going to be a big deal. People are finally starting to realize that there's not going to be a tariff reversal. I think it was Kevin Hassett that had talked over the weekend, and they'd asked him if the Supreme Court was going to reverse it. And he goes, guys, first off, I think we're going to win. Secondly, if they did rule against us, he didn't say no way, but there's no way that they'll reverse it. They won't reverse it because it's an administrative nightmare, and the Supreme Court doesn't want to get involved in that kind of decision. So at the very least, we don't see that happening. And what we'll see instead is them denying the tariffs going forward, 90,300. And And that's like an 80% probability, at least, the last I checked. And then what we'll see is them basically denying future tariff revenue, but then Trump and his team will just come in with different articles that allow them to be able to start this process over again and just continue on with tariffs. So that's the worst case scenario. So I really don't see that as being a big deal. We also have the MSCI Bitcoin Treasury decision. That's January 15th. So that's a headwind, right? We've got that coming up in 3 weeks. I don't think they're going to exclude Bitcoin Treasury companies. I know there was a petition going around, and really, I just don't see how it's in their economic interest to do this, especially with an administration that has made it very clear that they are pro-Bitcoin and crypto. So I think that this is going to be a nothing burger as well. And then we have the potential for a government shutdown, which I think Democrats will probably try and push. I think that they actually think that they're winning when they shut down the government. I don't think that's a really good idea on their part. It could mean the end of the filibuster. But these are kind of some of the big wall of worry things that we have in front of us. Also, I told you guys I didn't think that the Bank of Japan rate hike decision was going to be that big of a deal, and it really hasn't been. So far I'm batting pretty good on the macro, even though my investment strategies for this last year have not been as lucrative and my timing has not been as good as what I'm invested in and what's going up, especially the second half of the year. I just got butchered. But that and options contracts, way too many options contracts. Luckily, that's only 20% of my portfolio right now, so my downside risk is pretty good. I don't have a lot of worry, and I'm just probably a hair under 3 million, which sucks, but it is what it is. I made bad decisions. I should have cashed out all those Clean Spark and Mara calls. And options, I mean, they can be brutal, man. So anybody that's new to this is what you get. It's all about timing. And when you're going to have chop, you don't want to be in options. That's the general rule. Anyway, so I think it's safe to say we do have headwinds in front of us over the next 3 to 4 weeks, but I think a lot of those headwinds will end up being a nothing burger, getting close to 90,400. And I think now is the time for Bitcoin to go up. And I did post, I was trying to get this out to Peter Schiff. I don't know how much this is going to circulate. Only 42 likes. Maybe everybody's on a holiday. But this is crazy. and nobody's talking about this, but everybody's pro gold. And I get it, right? You've made a bunch of money. You're going to be like, this is the greatest thing ever. I made a bunch of money from it. But this is not the time to be bullish on gold, okay? It has got the highest, if it closes at 4,500 or higher at the end of this month, it will be the highest monthly RSI since 1968, okay? That's a lot of years. That's 55 or 57-ish something years that we're talking about here. And so a little overbought. And I said there's no other comparison to be made because the concept of the RSI didn't exist before that time frame. So everything else, if you look at this chart, it's just kind of gobbledygook. And really, it was in the 60s too. The concept of RSI came into the 70s, but there was more data points to work with, so they could kind of draw this out correctly. If you go back further into like the 40s, it's just weird lines up and down. But this is a big deal, guys. This is a monthly RSI right now of 93.75. And I'm not saying this because I'm pro-Bitcoin and I'm anti-gold. I'm telling you that if Bitcoin was at 93.75 on the monthly, I would probably sell fucking all of it. Okay? So you guys do you. Pretty sure Peter Schiff is going to fuck this one up. But you should be rotating out of Bitcoin or out of gold and into Bitcoin right now. That is my take. If you're not doing that, you're going to regret it later. You just are. And to all the people, I mean, again, if you've made, what is it, 200 and whatever percent, 204% from the bottom here, then congratulations. And if you're in silver and you've made 300%, congratulations. Very excited for you. But when you're getting to levels that haven't happened since the 60s and that are actually worse than the 70s, which is fucking crazy because commodities went crazy in the 70s and inflation was nuts. I remember my parents had a mortgage. I think it was 12.75% interest or some shit back in like the late 70s, early 80s, whenever I think they got it in the 70s from what they were telling me. But it was a really high fucking mortgage, okay? So, like, things were crazy back then. Volcker had to raise rates at the most aggressive rate outside of what's happened here more recently. and just absolutely crushed the markets. And then they came in, and this is something I want to talk about. I'm going to talk about probably a lot today. Ronald Reagan came into his administration, and Art Laffer, Kathy Wood talks about him all the time. This is her mentor. He came in and said, what you need to do is lower taxes, and you need to work on deregulation. And if you do these things, you're going to have a booming economy. And that created the boom cycle that we saw throughout the entirety of the 80s. And I will argue this. I will argue that some of the setup isn't as good. They dropped taxes from like 70% down to 51 at the highest end. So that was a pretty big movement. I don't think the tax benefits that we're giving right now are quite that large. They're focused on Social Security. They're focused on overtime and tax on tips, right? But they are beneficial to the sectors that need them. But so maybe not as much being done there. Deregulation even more. Trump was shooting for I think it was a 4-1 or 5-1 in his first term for regulations that are removed per one that is added. This term he was shooting for 10-1. I think they're like at 30 or 40. It's fucking nuts. Or maybe it's 20. I don't remember. You guys look it up on Grok. But it's a really big number for deregulation right now, and all these things are going to be incredibly positive for markets. So and then at the same time, tariffs have been a blessing because tariffs are pulling everybody back into the U.S. market. That's another thing that didn't exist back then, right? We actually did have a pretty good production base in the United States. The world was suffering back then as a whole, but we were still a powerhouse. We haven't been that. And now we're pulling all of that back. So I would argue that tax benefits might not be as great this time as they were back in the 80s. But as Art Laffer would say, and he's actually got some interviews, maybe I can pull one of those up. I think we're set up better this time because of the tariffs. And the deregulation is just more monstrous than it's ever been. And the Trump account, everything that's being done right now is just so good. I think people aren't looking at this. They don't understand it. They don't realize that 2026 is going to be fucking epic. And I think that's the world we're setting up for. And I hope you guys come along for the ride. How's chat? How's chat doing? What do we got here? It's pretty quiet today. 233 people. If you guys could if you guys could retweet, get other people in the room, that would be wonderful. It keeps me doing this when I have people coming in. Subaru Trade, the official Santa Claus rally begins on December 24th. That is in 2 days. It covers the last 5 trading days of December, plus the first 2 in January. SPX was up 77% of the time, so 3 out of 4 chance. The last 2 were negative, but there has never been a third straight down Santa Claus rally. So throughout history, going back to the 40s, we have never seen 3 years of negative times around this time of year. Pretty good odds, I would argue. Ryan Detrick, again, official Santa Claus rally period starts on Wednesday. Santa hasn't come 2 years in a row. Okay, well, it's essentially the same thing. Just different grass, right? Let's see, what else does he have over here? Is that helpful? Average return, 1.27%. All right. All right. Yeah, okay, so I kind of talked about this already, but my friend Chris, who, by the way, Chris, I beat him, and he bet against me that Trump would not win the election, and Chris did not turn out well for you. I never did collect on the win. I told him not to worry about it, but I did win the bet, and I won it because I'm actually pretty good at digging through and finding sentiment, and I used Real Clear Politics a lot, or I think it's polling now. It used to be politics like 20 years ago, but I use that a lot to determine what the sentiment is, and I use a lot of other things nowadays, but we're going to look at a sentiment survey in just a second. But again, just reiterating: lower taxes, pro-growth policies, deregulation, tariffs, helping move business back here. We're getting ready for a boom. You just have to remember that the U.S. economy is a freighter, and when you try and turn a freighter, or if you've been on a cruise ship, it doesn't turn immediately. You put in the request, and then you wait a little bit, and then eventually you start turning, and it's a very slow process. But then you're headed in the right direction, and when you're done, and then you just fucking go. And that I think is what we're heading into right now, and I hope people realize that. Jesse, working during Christmas, thank you. Yeah, hey, you know what? I'm only working 1 day a week, so I feel like I have to. All right. I said there's only one direction to go from here. So Kobayashi letter. said, breaking the U.S. consumer sentiment assessment, current economic conditions has declined to 50.4, the lowest level on record. So pessimism is rampant. Hello, Stunis from Tel Aviv. Welcome, sir. Is rampant right now. And I would argue that that's just a beautiful thing, guys. That's a beautiful thing. Why is that a beautiful thing? Well, let's look at what happened. You know, you could look at all these, Black Monday, 9/11, whatever. Let's start with the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis. Everybody thought the banks were going to collapse and the world was going to come to an end. That time frame, right? Well, if we look at that time frame, we can actually see that the level that it was at down here was the bottom of the market. Let's look at COVID. This level right here was the bottom of the market. Let's look at 2022. Nobody seems to want to talk about that, but I mean, if Meta's down 75%, Tesla's down 75%, and Palantir's down like 80, all these things, I'm going to argue that this was a recession too. And so the bottom of 2022 was right here. And now we're down here, the lowest recorded number in fucking history. What do you think the next path is going to be? People are looking at this like fucking morons. No offense, but if you think that, you're retarded. They're looking at this and being like, oh, it's the top, guys. Consumer sentiment at record lows while SPI hits new highs. This is the definition of sentiment-driven bubble waiting to pop. I don't know how bad this guy's Down syndrome is. Does he follow me? No? Okay, good. I don't know how bad his Down syndrome is, but he is retarded. And there's probably plenty of people telling me I'm wrong in here. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Chris was one of them. Sorry, Chris, you're not retarded. Just a little slow on this topic. Destroyer of libtards. You forgot energy dominance. Okay, so just talking about other stuff. A lot of positive things is what he was talking about. Markets are so interesting if you zoom out a bit. Yes, they are. That's true, Ted. You can actually find quite the exciting setup if you leave out all the noise. 2025 wasn't what we thought it would be, which is why 2026 should be that. I agree. Sentiment, not sentiment. Thank you for the clarification. Did I say sentiment? So anyway, and then something else. Everybody's talking about a Fed injection of liquidity today that's supposed to be like just so huge. And yes, there is one. I don't think people are paying attention to why. So this says the Fed often injects liquidity near the end of the year to address seasonal funding pressures like banks adjusting balance sheets for regulations, tax settlements, or holiday cash demands. Recent market volatility and rate cuts may also play a role, ensuring a stable short-term rates without signaling a crisis. This aligns with the $40 billion Treasury purchase plan announced mid-December. So again, it's part of the plan. We also like to provide liquidity for the end of the year. That is it. That is all of it. And it does help with markets, though. It does. And again, we went from quantitative tightening to quantitative easing. We have lowered rates. And what we're looking for now is for rates to get lower, or yields to get lower is probably the better term. Let's listen to why yields might get lower. This is President Trump. He's going to talk about how with housing, he doesn't want houses to depreciate too much in value. So if he wants to make housing more affordable, and everybody took this wrong. Everybody took this wrong. Endgame Macro wrote this. People are like, these actions will make no difference. I agree. All bad ideas. That's fucking stupid. Fibonacci investing, he'll need to bring down rates. Yes, he's actually fucking right. But everybody liked this post. Everybody liked, because most people are fucking sheep and they're stupid as shit. And they don't know what they're fucking talking about. And you know what they do? They're really good at like, there's a headline. Oh, that headline is the truth. I don't need to read the article or understand or ask Grok or do any effort whatsoever to try and find the truth. So Harvey Rosenblum evidently is super smart. He's a day trader. And these actions will make no difference is just riveting, I guess. But let's listen to what Trump is saying, and I'll tell you why this is a big deal.
On housing, you talked in your address last night about housing. Yeah. Are you still considering a national emergency over housing?
Guys, 1 week, no caffeine whatsoever, okay? It's been awesome. I have no coffee, trying to get healthier. It's my big push. It's one of the reasons why I cut back on the show too. I'm just trying to get healthy. I got too many medical problems, and I want to be a healthy person who lives a long time and can watch my kid grow up. So working on that.
I'm looking at it.
We can talk about the CPI in a little bit. It was fucking great.
What would that mobilize?
You know, there's two thoughts on housing. You have a lot of people have housing that because we have such a strong time and such a strong market, their houses are very valuable. It's a big part of their net worth, their house. I don't want to knock those numbers down because I want them to continue to have a big.
He's right. You don't want people that are doing well and that could refinance and do even better and help out their families. I give away like $70,000 fucking dollars a year to my family and friends, right? So there's a lot of people like me that end up supporting other people, and they can do that and they can help them out through tough times because they have equity, they have investments, that kind of stuff. You don't want to butcher people's home equity. That creates another problem in and of itself. But let's keep listening.
Big value for the house. At the same time, I want to make it possible for young people out there and other people to buy housing. In a way, they're at conflict. In other words, you create a lot of housing all of a sudden, and it drives the housing prices down. So I want to take care of the people that have houses that have a value to the house that they never thought possible, that have sort of made them wealthy and happy, and especially in their later years. Got to be careful with that. I want to keep them up. At the same time, I want to make it possible for people to go buy houses. Daniel, please.
See, that's people look at this and what was the take again? Those actions will make no difference. What fucking actions are you even talking about, you dipshit? He was telling you his fucking intent. He didn't give you any fucking actions. But again, he's probably referring to the post from Endgame talking about changes with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and 50-year mortgages. And here, guys, they bring these things out like a sounding board, right? 50-year mortgage, I think, I tried to justify it. Really doesn't fucking justify. There's no point in it. That's true. But the things you can do, deregulation, people, everybody, all the smart people say that there's a 10 to 15% reduction in cost for home building if you do that. Now that's helpful in order to be able to get the builders moving, which we want to do. But it's going to take time to do that. It's a freighter too. It's not going to turn around in a heartbeat, okay? That's not going to happen. And so you're going to see prices gradually get restored to maybe a slightly lower number. You're not going to see a large collapse in housing numbers. You're just not. Plus, he's already deporting a bunch of illegal immigrants that could have theoretically been owning a house or at least renting a bunch of properties, which makes it to where people don't rent and instead they buy a house because they can't afford the rents. Right now, rents are really cheap. Rents are super cheap because we're deporting all these fucking people. And I would argue that that's going to help bring down housing prices between deregulation, changing it by 10 to 15% in cost, and then deportation of illegal immigrants. You're going to see these things continue to contract, right? But how is he going to get housing affordable for younger people? There's probably a number of things that they could do that we're not even thinking about, right? Because a lot of people don't think about trying to solve problems. But I will just point out the fucking obvious one, yield curve control. If they use yield curve control, they can drop the 10-year. And, well, I mean, they drop the shorter term. But it doesn't fucking matter because then that brings it down too. Because they don't issue and they do buybacks on these debts. I would also argue that we're still rolling over. This is a rising, like, megaphone type pattern. And it's clearly establishing lower highs and lower highs and lower highs. And it wants to break down. And I think that's what you're going to see happen. They've told us they want this thing in the ones. They've told us that. So I think it's inevitable that it's going to happen. My calls on this for the 2027 have been butchered. But that's okay. I'm probably still going to be dialing into those. And I might even be pushing them back or pushing them out even further into the latter part of 2027. Maybe mid-2027 or something like that. I will be buying some because I think what's probably more likely to happen first is we're probably more likely to get some kind of increase in these other parts of the market, including things like AI, HPC with CleanSpark, Iron, and Cypher. I think those are going to do well because they have, if you think about it, especially like with CleanSpark is a good example, they have a bunch of Bitcoin miners. I mean, all these guys do. But if Bitcoin starts performing and the AI narrative continues to be strong, which I think it will, then I can see these doing really well. And let's just look at some of this for a second. Let's look at Iron. So Friday, up almost 12%. Today, up almost 7%. I would argue this is pretty bouncy. It's a pretty bouncy move, and this is the monthly, so I'm going to go back a little bit here. But this is a pretty bouncy move, and if we get above, guys, like the 45 range, this is, I mean, we're going higher. We're going higher. And this thing, again, this was a sell too, right? This thing got to 93.78. That's almost perfectly where gold is right now. That's literally what we just looked at, right? What happened to it? It topped. My argument, gold is going to do this. It's going to break down. It's going to go back up. It's probably going to do something like a double top. Maybe this does a double top too. It's got about 84% to get to its all-time high. If we end up doing really well over a short period of time, you might want to lighten the load a little bit if you're a trader and you need the money. Or if you've got margin or if you've got leverage of any kind, you might want to reduce that significantly, in my opinion, because I think you want to be thinking long-term just in case weird shit happens. But, I mean, iron went down, guys. Iron went down 57, well, close, 56, 57 fucking percent. And now it's still down 45. So it can bounce really good and people can do good from this. And I think it's going to. People right now are only up 700% if they bought at the very tippity top or tippity bottom here at April 14th of 2025. So that is a wicked return still. But again, from where it was at, 1,300%, pretty sweet. I think we're still going up. I think all of these are going to keep going up. And the rest of the charts look like this too. Clean Spark, I would argue, looks maybe even better. But again, they need to get contracts. But as you can see here, we had this, what looks like a bull flag. It broke out. It broke back down. It had a really strong bounce. It broke back down again. It hit this perfectly. Found support on the fib. Found support on this line. Now we're up here. Could we get back up to 23 pretty soon here? Yeah, I think we could. I actually think that we'll probably sometime by at least mid 2026, I think we'll be by 32. So that's a 200% increase. So I'm still liking this play. Polly, hey all, hey Jesse, can you take a look at Fundstrat video for end of year to early 2026? Sean Farrell, Tom Lee, opposite views. Yeah, everybody's talking about that. So I'll leave it at this. Sean Farrell is concerned that Bitcoin could drop a little bit further, that it could drop into the 70s and maybe even upper 60s. So that's his concern. Tom Lee doesn't have that. And we actually, I do have a post where I'll probably go through that in a second here. It's actually one that Tom Lee had retweeted, where somebody had kind of explained how these are different people working under the same organization, and they don't always have the exact same views or the same time horizons. And so, again, Tom Lee, his last comment was that he thinks that Bitcoin can get to 200,000 by January. I think that's overly optimistic, but again, they have different opinions. I don't think it's a contradiction or a conflict in some way that Tom Lee is bullish and that Sean Farrell has a different opinion on what the timing might be from a technical standpoint. They're looking at these from different lenses, and they're trying to give you both perspectives. That's the way I look at it. And again, we'll talk more about that. Now, for this week, this guy, take some of the stuff he says with a grain of salt, but he can't get dates right. So this guy has somehow 167,000 more followers than I have. This part's right. We'll talk about that in a second. But there's some things I want to warn you against with him. Like this, Fed will officially inject $6 billion into the market in 4 hours. It's like, okay, yeah, this is just a part of the machine. This inflation surged. Somebody sent me this. JD, I think, sent me this morning. Japan inflation just surged 100 bips, hitting the highest level in modern history. Okay, let's look at Japan's inflation rate. Does this look overly concerning to anybody? It actually rolled 0.1 bips lower. So just, again, grain of salt sometimes. On JB yield rises 2.1% on the Bank of Japan. It's now dumping $500 billion in U.S. stocks to stabilize the economy. This is bad news for global markets. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, the global markets seem to be really fucking suffering today from that. So, but he can't get this right. So today, liquidity injection. Yes, it's not huge. It's decent though. Tomorrow's the GDP report. So we do have a lot of data coming out in the next week. Tomorrow is a huge one, actually. So we get October and November data. I don't know if they're going to fill in the October slots, but we got durable goods, we got GDP growth, we got corporate profits, we got PCE prices, we got everything. Industrial production, capacity utilization, manufacturing production, consumer confidence from the CB, Richmond Fed. Tomorrow is huge. There's a ton of data coming in tomorrow. So definitely keep an eye on that. And then Wednesday, we have more data. It's not a ton, but we do have mortgage-related data and jobs data. So, but again, historically, Wednesday is when the Santa Claus rally starts. I feel like we're getting a preview of that right now. And I'm excited about it. I think it's good stuff. I do want to check something real quick. I haven't even looked at this ahead of time, but I want to see what commodities are looking like. BGZ, market manipulators are probably off this week due to Christmas. Probably a green week. Yeah, right? There you go. Ashana, $9 or $5. Thank you, sir. No question even. All right, thank you. I appreciate you, sir. Merry Christmas. Jacot Skin, government should sell some gold and buy Bitcoin. I agree. And I think there's stealth ways to do that, honestly. But let's just take a look here over the last month in energy. I'm going to argue this is pretty good, except for uranium and coking coal. Coal is the coking coal is like, again, these prices are rock bottom. It doesn't fucking matter. Uranium, I mean, nuclear is going to be a big theme. I could see that going up. But look at natural gas. Look at gasoline. Where I live, I don't know where you guys live, but gasoline where I live is about $2.45. Again, they're kind of slow on bringing down the prices. I've seen areas under $2. And the core price is $1.73. Let's look at this historically and see what this looks like. This is not inflation. And people will start to understand and do better from this. These are some of the best levels we've seen since the pandemic shut everything down. Manny, dude, 50 memberships. Thanks, bro. I appreciate you, dude. You're a good man. Haven't seen that kind of stuff in a while. Really appreciate you. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas, Manny. But this is cool. This is cool. This is what we want to see, right? If we go back to all, we're seeing gas prices getting towards the lower end of the spectrum, going back to the early 2000s. So this is not a bad thing. This is not bearish. And again, ethanol is looking good. There's just a lot of this is, you can't be upset by what's going on right now. And again, year to date, look at year to date. Look at year to date. Look at all these prices just plummeting. Now, in metals, this is where the speculation kicks in. It's not really grounded by reality, but it is speculative, right? Silver up, platinum up, gold up, copper up, lithium up, HRC steel up. HRC steel might actually be a real number. Lots of building going on right now. So that's the thing. But let's look year to date on some of these other metrics like agriculture. Potatoes down 78%, orange juice 60, cocoa 48, butter 41, rice 30. I think eggs dropped down to $1. Sugar down 22%, cheese down, milk down. Everything is down. What's up? Wool. So if you guys are big into wool, you got to watch out for that, right? Now, industrial is starting to kick off, but I would actually argue that this is a good thing. Some of this, again, cobalt, sulfur, palladium, rhodium, tin. Let's just look at some of these. Let's hop in and look at historical. But I would actually argue, as compared to the same time last year, according to this. So again, we're seeing an increase in this. But I don't know that this is necessarily a bad thing at all. I don't think what we're looking at here is really an issue. I think if anything, it probably shows that we're seeing growth in our economy. And then cattle. So again, the big thing here, guys, eggs just like 101. Again, cheap as fucking shit, right? These are rock bottom prices. This is where it should be. So you got gas getting to really affordable levels. You've got staples for food getting to really affordable levels. You've got us finding fraud and corruption and removing it from the system. You got the Department of Government Efficiency requiring a MICR in the memo line that people actually put in where the money's going so that it doesn't go to Mogadishu, the capital of Somalia, Did you know Mogadishu is going through a boom, an economic boom? It's like the fastest growing city in Africa. Do you know why that is? Could it be $9 billion in fraudulent money, and with some of it making its way to Mogadishu? That's going to stop. Oof, that's going to be rough on those guys. Now, again, cattle. People will talk about how cattle is really expensive. Cattle is only expensive because of a lot of different issues that we're having with it. Regulation, slaughtering of cattle, all kinds of stupid shit that has prevented us from having a really strong. And in Mexico, we were going to import some in from there, but we weren't able to because there's disease. And then if you look at Argentina, we just signed a deal with them to get their beef, and they've got some of the best beef in the world. So these prices, I argue, will come down too. Again, I'm just looking around here. Let's look at some of these others, these indexes. Nuclear up 73%. Of course it is. Solar up 44%. That's kind of good because solar got crushed. If we just zoom out here a little bit, I mean, solar isn't exactly exploding, right? It's getting better, but if you look over here in 2008, it was way higher. We're starting to see an increase, and again, in phase is my kind of play for solar right now, because I think they benefit a lot from lower interest rates, and in phase has been working really hard to pull a lot of their manufacturing and their supply chain into the United States. And I want to say right now, like 60-something% of it is done in the United States, and that number is changing very quickly. And they benefit greatly when rates come down. If rates get down into the threes, they do a really, really good job. So I'm kind of excited about that opportunity. But look at containerized freight, guys. Down 37% year to date. This is a good thing. This is a good thing because, again, these costs drop down with everything. And so if we just jump into here to containerized freight, we can see that it's closer to better levels that we would want to see. And but it's not dead, right? Like it's high, but it's not this shit. It's not the pandemic highs where everybody was buying stuff from China. It's not even over here in June of 2024 when, again, China was doing really, really well. It's much lower, and that's great. And by the way, I don't know if you guys know this. We caught our third Pokemon card. We have 3 oil tankers now that we've caught around Venezuela from the Shadow Fleet. So we're building out our arsenal of ships, and we don't even have to spend the money to build them. How great is that? We just take the fucking oil, and then we take the fucking ship, and it's ours. I love it. America's wonderful. And at the same time, we're crushing Maduro. And again, I've talked about this before, but we need more heavy crude. We don't want to be getting it from Iraq. California, 2/3 of their oil comes from Iraq. That's where they get their oil. We're rich in abundance of light and medium crude. And light comes from fracking. But we don't, and so we export all of that out, but we don't have enough heavy. It's very much a deliberate act that we're putting this pressure on our neighbor Venezuela, that is a shitty country, with somebody who is the rightfully elected president who just received the Nobel Prize and who loves Trump. She will be installed as the new leader of Venezuela when it collapses. And it's going to be a beautiful thing. It's going to be a really beautiful thing. Anyway, what else did he have in here? You got initial jobless claims. Yeah, that was right. Thursday, Japan core CPI. That should be interesting. Friday, yearly economic report. That's good stuff. So there was some value to be found in his post here. Kirby tax. A lot of people were predicting a huge 2025, including me. Yeah, I was too. I mean, that's what history told us was going to happen, right? So I'm happy to see some gloom and doom for H1. Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing. It makes no sense whatsoever for Bitcoin not to do well in 2026. We talk about this all the time, but things move from the bigger containers to the smaller ones, and gold has had its moment. It is over $30 trillion. We're sitting close to $36 trillion between gold and silver right now, guys. That is fucking insane. And Bitcoin is just around 2. It's at, what Bitcoin isn't even, 1.71 trillion. 1.71 trillion. Gold and silver are 36 trillion. Gold is over 30 trillion. And Bitcoin is 1.71. Do you want the one that's 1/18th the size, that's arguably better in every fucking way, and that is the future? Or do you want the old thing that just hit an RSI of almost 94 on a monthly time frame? I don't know how much you guys understand about all this, but damn, man, if you have gold, start rotating out. David Sachs, the AI boom is a 2% tailwind to GDP growth. So he's saying we're getting an extra 2% from AI. people just aren't looking at this. They're not looking at how beneficial this is. He said driving both wage and job increases per Vanguard, and you're black pilling about it. Stop being gaslit by doomers, socialists, and EA weirdos. What is EA? Anybody know what he means, EA? I don't know. Jeff, again, put down 101. The eggs are pretty good. Jeff was a little bit, well, I don't know if you watch me, Jeff, but I don't want to call you a doomer. Right? That's not fair. But I will say this. Historically, a while ago, I think Jeff had a more positive attitude on China, and he probably had a more negative attitude on the tariffs. But he's coming around. I think he's starting to come around. He's more negative on China now, and he's more positive on what the tariffs are doing. Even though I think part of it is he understands the complexity of how much this affects manufacturing and how much it was causing pain within that sector. So he's probably looking at it through that lens, not through some of the more positive aspects. But he's coming around, and I love that. Jay said here, NAAIM is not dumb money, in my opinion. I consider this index a trend tool, not a contrarian sentiment gauge. What is he talking about? So he's looking at the exposure index for this, sitting at really high levels. And what they're doing is they're showing you the red dots that are associated with that. And if you look, those red dots, I mean, most of the time they just goes up, just goes up, just goes up, just goes up. And we're getting red dots right now. So again, just another way to show that things are better than people realize. This is from the 14th. I might have already covered this, but I put deporting millions of illegal immigrants will help bring prices down dramatically. Forcing rates lower will also help with the process. Again, median age of the U.S. home buyers is really high. Needs to get better. Lower rates are going to be a big driving factor of that. I probably will look at buying more TLT calls in the not too distant future, but I want my other investments to do well first. In here, in regard to the Tom Lee statements about FundStrat and the difference of opinions, let's look at this. He said, Mr. Derivatives, I probably shouldn't be saying this because I'm a FundStrat customer and the research isn't public. We're going to look at the research in a second too. But I feel the way this is being framed on X is unfair and misleading, so I want to clear it up. He said, I've seen people point to screenshots and clips saying FundStrat is contradicting itself. Tom Lee bullish, Sean Farrell bearish. Which is it? That's not what's happening. First, FundStrat is not a one-man shop. It's definitely not just Tom Lee talking to himself. Different senior people have different mandates. Tom Lee, the head of research, Public Macro Voice, runs Granny Shots ETF, chairman of BitMine, Big Picture Cycle, and Liquidity Thinker. Sean Farrell, head of digital asset strategy, owns the crypto model portfolio and actual positioning, crypto native and flow risk focused. He's also very technical driven. He's like me looking at charts. Mark Newton is also like that. He's a veteran technical analyst, structure, trend, damage, demarc, pattern repair, zero narrative. Where they all agree, this part is important, is all three see real headwinds in early 2026. So what they're telling us is what I just told you, right? There are some concerns with government shutdown. There are some concerns with MSCI and removing Bitcoin treasury companies. There's tailwinds like this in the beginning. And again, maybe weaker jobs data. There's tailwinds, which I think actually is kind of a positive. But there's tailwinds that could cause a lumpy first half of the year. I agree with that, 100%. Potential U.S. government shutdown resurfacing, legal uncertainty around Trump tariffs, new Fed chair nomination and bond market stress, Treasury volatility testing policy credibility, just all the things, right? I'm not worried about too many of these. I think, though, again, the narrative around Trump tariff could be a rough one to start with, and then he didn't even put the MSCI thing in here, but I think that's another one too, and a government shutdown wouldn't help. So I agree. The first half, we could have some issues, right? But what if those turn out well? Then we don't have issues. We have a rocket ship. Said where the views diverge, and this is where X loses the plot a lot. Sean Farrell, crypto strategy. Sean is responsible for protecting and reallocating the crypto basket. His base case assumes drawdown risk in first half of 2026, potentially 60 to 65 with ETH down to the 1.8 to 2K. His reasoning is very specific. Task loss dynamics, minor selling pressure post-halving. I mean, yeah, okay. I don't think there actually is a lot of mining selling pressure. They have been selling, but I think they were doing that because of the concerns of the 4-year cycle and all of that. I think a lot of that's happened. Flow exhaustion, okay. ETF cost base is clustered around 72,000. So he's saying that that's kind of like a support base. On-chain average closer to 59,000, a natural high value. I actually think the 70s is really the base. And I can talk about why I think that is in a little bit. On-chain average closer to 59,000. So that's what he's using as like his ultimate base, I think, in here, which is why he gives the 67,000 level. That's just like, that's the bottom of a bear market, basically. That's what he's talking about. Because of that, he moved roughly 50% of the crypto portfolio to cash stables. That's risk management, not long-term bearish call. His longer-term outlook in late 2026 to 2027 is still constructive. Mark Newton, Mark's view is structural. He thinks the October damage broke trend integrity. So he, again, you got two people here that are looking at this from like a risk management standpoint and, again, a technical breakdown standpoint. His base case, possible bounce into February. Choppy range, bound repair phase, late year rally, one structural heals, no narratives, just charts. So he's saying still that we could bounce into February. Again, this is just charts though. This doesn't include the lockdown and all the other stuff. You have to factor that in. I actually think we could do really good into the end of the year. And then I think that people are going to be like, what about a government shutdown? What about the Supreme Court? All these other things. So if I was looking to take profits, I would probably do it in the early part of January. If you want to reduce your leverage, if you want to reduce margin, hopefully you're not on it. If you are, I would reduce it in the early part of January. Tom Lee, cycle and liquidity. Tom is operating on a different layer entirely. His core belief is that traditional 4-year crypto cycle is breaking. Liquidity, ETFs, corporate adoption, and sovereign dynamics matter more now. I agree. He believes BTC and ETH have likely already been put into structural lows. Volatility and drawdowns can still happen. Crypto could still make new highs into early 2026 and beyond. This is why Bitmine has been accelerating purchases rather than slowing them. Is fund strat contradicting itself? No. This is what real research looks like. Different horizons, different mandates, same macro risks, different tools, different timing. Short-term defense and long-term bullishness can coexist. Final thought, I'm still very much a fan of the research. The unfortunate reality of X is that people get reduced to TV sound bites and screenshots while the actual work is far more nuanced and fundamental. You know what's sad? If I post stupid shit that's like 2 words, people will like the shit out of it and repost it like crazy. If I post a long documentary that's really valuable and has a bunch of information in it, or something that's even just a paragraph, most of the time that doesn't get liked and reposted. It's so true. Anyway, you can read the rest of this. I do think that this is a great write-up, and for this reason, I am going to follow Cassian. There's not a lot of people that take the time to write up something like this. I'm going to put it in chat in case anybody else wants to follow him too. But I like that level of response and clarified thoughts and just really articulating any kind of messaging is so rare. So we're liking him. I think that's it. I think that's it for this. I am sick today too. I almost shit my pants earlier. Sorry, little segue here. So we're gonna make this probably a quicker one today, just because I'm not feeling too good, and I'm operating with illness. Probably the flu. Anyway, BTC. 3D bullish divergence. That's probably too much information. Sorry about that, guys. And thank you to the 513 people that are here. I appreciate you guys. So Max Crypto put, can we resume the bullish pump now? Yes, we can. This is showing divergence. This is what you want to see. We don't have to drop another time. We don't have to. Probably not going to, because everybody thinks we're going to. This right here from Zinks says, what a year for those who have, I'm like sweaty right now. It sucks. Have almost all of our wealth in Bitcoin. It's been shit, actually. And I apologize, guys. I'm going to do an end-of-year write-up showing how I did this year, just like I've done the last several years. I was depressed last year because I only got like a 54, 56% return. The year before that, I got 600%. This year, I'm probably in the red. It's fucking depressing, especially seeing so many people do well, like Amit with Palantir and Hood. And I'm no shade. I love Amit, and he deserves every bit of his success. I can't even think of anybody who's worked as hard as him. He's done great, kick ass. But seeing people make a bunch of money off of MetaPlanet, getting into that at the wrong time, seeing a bunch of people make money off of MicroStrategy, and being like, oh shit, I get it now, only to have it get crushed. Being in minors, but not the right minors because I wasn't in the AI play. Missing EOC, which did, or EOS, which did really well. And you know, the biggest thing that bums me out is you guys talked about all this shit. You guys talked about all of it, but I was so arrogant in my belief that the cycle was going to perform well and all I had to do was just sit around rest on my laurels that I did that and I didn't listen to you. And I missed out on a lot of returns, and I think I guided people down a bad path, and I'm sorry for that. I will do better. I promise you that. But a lot of opportunities missed, right? And but I think now is the time to be patient because it's not just some arbitrary date that I'm looking for. It's the fundamentals that I'm focused on. And again, I think we're going to do good in 2026. Just make sure that you're not leveraged to the hilt like I was in 2025 near the end of the year, waiting for this big move that never came. Anyway, so that's a long diatribe, but I just wanted to get that off my chest. I am not a perfect person. I do try and work hard for you though. Lowe's 9492, Jesse, check out Kasian's tweet on Hertz bull case autonomy. I'll check it out. Hertz had a tough time, man. They got into Tesla too early. People don't want to take a Tesla as a rental because if they don't know EVs, they're scared to take a Hertz rental that's an EV when they don't know how it works and they don't know how far they're going to be able to get. And I do think that'll change. I'll definitely check out his post. LD, good morning. Have you looked at FLI and ONDS bought by Chicken Genius? I have not. That's actually something I want to do. Again, try not to be an arrogant asshole anymore and actually take the time to do more research. I'm also one person, though. So if you guys do any research on that or if you know good people that have done research, please throw it out when you bring up these suggestions. I would love to do further research, but it's helpful when I have some kind of base or foundation to start off with. I'll take a look at what Chicken Genius has to say. He's good sometimes, like me. He's good sometimes. He's shit other times. His Rivian case didn't work out too good. He also got into Metaplanet at the wrong time, like me, and just a lot of hit or miss timing. But I will take a look. Thanks, Minnie, for unleashing me in the chat, or Manny. Okay, yeah, I gotcha. Jake buying ONDS as well. I like Jake. Jake's a good dude. He's really good from the technical perspective. I don't know if he does a lot of fundamental research, but he's good from a technical. I'm the most honest guy on YouTube. I mean, not many people will tell you they almost shitted their pants this morning and they still made a YouTube video. So I like to think that's true. Very true. Peter Schiff, Bitcoiner Grant Cardone ran this poll. 69% of 5,500 voters chose Bitcoin. Can Bitcoin win again? Yes. Yes, it can. 32,475 votes. And Bitcoin still absolutely crushed it. So just remember, guys, if you made 200, 300% off gold and silver, you might want to take a moment and reevaluate what's coming next. Don't look in the rear view mirror. Look ahead. Thank God Tesla kept me in the game. Yeah, me too, really. I wish I owned more of it. I moved too much out too early, but Tesla did keep me in the game, and that's one that I called well. Again, you're never going to be perfect. You're never going to be perfect. And honestly, most of the time when you think you're flying the highest, it's when you better work the hardest because you're going to fuck yourself from your own arrogance. That is something I've learned multiple times throughout my history. Dr. Julian Hosp. Julian made a shitcoin a long time ago. Does anybody remember what that was? I'm trying to remember. It's been a long time. I don't think he talks about it anymore. Anyway, speaking of arrogance, let's read this post. 15 years later, and Bitcoin had no meaningful impact on our lives. Okay. It helped make me rich. Oh, other than getting rich, quick casino, which some of us have won in. Others, it's had zero impact. The only way Bitcoiners are going to attack this statement is by ad hominem, tone, ridiculing, etc. They won't be able to name a single piece of impact. This is just the most arrogant, stupid fucking thing I've heard somebody say. And again, he made a shitcoin. He capitalized on this. Very disappointed in this response. I think Adam Livingston did a good job here. He said zero impact is a wild claim for an asset that created the first globally verifiable permissionless settlement layer in human history, enabled capital flight for dissidents, journalists, and civilians under currency collapse, or just, again, suppression. 3, forced central banks and the IMF and every major regulator to publicly respond. And they're adopting it. Every bank became legal tender in a sovereign nation. El Salvador, anybody? Anchored an entire industry, energy monetization and grid stabilization, is now held in the balance sheets of public companies, ETFs, pension funds, and insurers, has settled trillions of dollars with no central operator, no bailouts, no reversals, served as a bedrock for foundation for digital credit issuance, enable a higher yielding fixed income than anything out that fixed income than anything else in the marketplace. Calling that a casino is what people say when they confuse not needing it personally with not existing. I just think that's an arrogant and super fucking stupid statement that Julian Hosp, he used to follow me. I guess he stopped. Maybe you should start again, Julian, because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. What else we got in chat? Jesse, I think most of your calls are right, but timing is another issue. So difficult. Yeah, it's so much easier to go long calls when Meta was down 75%. When Tesla was down 75%, when Palantir, all of which I got right, was down like 80%. It's so easy to call long calls in an environment like that. It's harder when everything is run a lot. And when you're working off of arbitrary time frames with probably not enough data on the 4-year cycle and you get arrogant, you can be wrong. And I can be, but again, I called SoFi doing great. It's fucking crushed it. I didn't benefit off of that because I was so focused on crypto. I called Hood doing great. I made a shit ton off of Hood. I made 1,600 fucking % off of Hood. So I did that well. There's a lot of things I've done well, but again, arrogance will get you. And yeah, it'll get you every time. And maybe Julian Hosp will understand that someday. The M2 money supply. So again, there's the difference between the M2 money supply growth and where Bitcoin is at. The biggest benefactor of that has been precious metals. Lynn Alden did a really good job with that. This gap will close. And it's not going to close with money supply going down. Gemini Knight, damn, I haven't been able to catch a live stream in weeks. Well, you're here now, sir. You're here now. Welcome. We got Michael Saylor. Guys, let me know if he's done this yet. But we have green dots beget orange dots. I am assuming, like my friend Zinks here, that what that means is he's going from a 21-month cash reserve to at least 36, 3 years of cash to be able to pay all their dividends. Dividend, whatever. All their payouts with all these preferred offerings that they have, right? So if they have 3 years of payouts, do you think Bitcoin's price is going to be higher in 3 years? It pretty much eliminates the concern with MicroStrategy about them not being able to pay them. And that's probably why they're up 3% today in pre-market after being up over 4% on Friday. So I think we get green dots today, and then I think that's going to beget orange dots. I don't know if he's going to do both. That would be interesting. They increased the reserve to $2.19 billion. Do we know how much that gives them? How much of an increase that was, B? Oh, God. Angel, DGXX. I've heard that a few times. Speculative AI data centers play with own power plant. That helps. Having access to power is so huge right now. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. I also wanted to cover this. This is another area where I think people just look at things from a surface value and don't understand what the fuck they're talking about. Long-term holders are selling like crazy! Exclamation. That's what everybody's been saying. This take is wrong. I've said it several times and I'll say it again. Since the movement of nearly 800,000 Bitcoin by Coinbase, a large amount of on-chain data has been impacted. Coinbase destroyed longtime holder UTXOs and created new ones when BTC was trading around 85,000 in November of 2022, 2023. As a result, all data sets across all platforms incorporated this movement, affecting UTXO-based metrics, time and valued cohorts, and short-term cost basis, realized value, volumes, and more. In this example, which claims that long-term holders have never sold so much, a take that has even been picked up by Bloomberg. The data has been heavily distorted. After manually adjusting the data to isolate, remove Coinbase-related transactions, this is what the long-term holder supply change actually looks like. So we're going to skip the rest, but this is the thing going around from Crypto Rover and people that are kind of borderline retarded sometimes. So they're pointing out this chart, telling you that this is the worst ever, right? Like this is the worst since 2017. Long-term holders are just dumping like crazy. The reality is this. This is what it... Oh, shit. Did I just lose it? Son of a bitch. Let me go back this way. Maybe I can find it. No, I can't. Fuck. The reality was it's not as bad. Let's just leave it at that. Maybe I can find it back up here again. I'm going to try. Oh, right here. So the reality, instead of looking like it was way down there, it's actually looking like this. And so it does look like a bottom, and it doesn't look like everybody's given up. That's the truth. IBKR to allow accounts to be funded with stablecoins. Pretty cool. Let's see. I thought there was another good one. So I put bouncy. That seems to be what's happening right here. This was at 89,273. We're at 90,042 right now. I think it's bouncy time. I think we can get up to 96.5, 108 before we start. Like you might want to peel off a little bit if you're a trader, again, at those levels. Adam Livingston, we've never received such a steady stream of news regarding Bitcoin and stablecoin adoption plus acceptance. Again, guys, crypto legislation is going to be coming in. Might not make it for the end of the year. Probably not happening until January. So there's some good things that could offset the bad too. Japan to cut Bitcoin and crypto tax, yada, yada. Oh, yeah, this one. I want to cover this real quick. So Eric Balkunis, he's the ETF guy. And James E. Thorne is my Canadian brother from another mother. He's very smart. He said, one really has to pause and consider what is taking shape in market structure. With sustained inflows into Bitcoin ETFs and accelerating institutional adoption across Wall Street, the asset is increasingly being intermediated and framed through the same channels that once defined the gold market. Watching how Bitcoin now trades, the market microstructure and narrative management increasingly resembles the way gold behaved for decades under heavy institutional influence, with price action reflecting not just fundamental demand, but also positioning, product design, and the preferences of large financial intermediaries. And so let's just look here. So what it's showing is that in this chart for IBIT, you can see that the year-to-date return on the Bitcoin ETF was negative 9.59%. It sucked, right? But what's fascinating about this is the year-to-date inflow was the sixth highest of any ETF. So what we're seeing here is that despite the price action with Bitcoin, the amount of flows coming in are high. And that's a big deal. Strategy has increased its USD reserve by $748 million and now holds $2.19 billion. So again, almost 3 years worth of payback. I think that's a good thing. I think that's a really good thing. I see Besant talking again, but is that an old one? Yeah, that's the old one. They're just rehashing it a lot. CFTC chair says using Bitcoin and crypto as collateral will bring trillions of dollars into the U.S. market. Let's listen to this one. This is the chair of the CFTC.
I'm really pleased that with all the expert input from the industry and from the people who are actually the largest firms, both traditional and crypto natives, that we're able to put this into place, and we're really delivering with action and with making sure that we can do what I think is like the killer app for blockchain technology in our markets, which is, again, really collateral management, which is going to bring, I think, trillions of dollars in savings from both an operational efficiency perspective and just, again, bringing down the costs.
Now,
All right, so that's good stuff. I think that's probably it under the Bitcoin section. I want to jump into AI. And then probably Tesla. I might do a little bit of some Trump stuff. I do want to point this out real quick, though. Oh, and this is actually going to segue pretty good into the other one. That iron, this is a good chart, right? Like, this is a good chart. You got a falling wedge. You're breaking out. And again, the price looks good today. We covered that a second ago. Let's look at AI and chips. So I said there's a lot of strong looking charts and setups in tech right now, short-term bullish. So again, it doesn't have to mean that we're not going to have some kind of contraction in January or February. That's possible, right? Or maybe even March. Maybe we rock it for a little bit and then we have problems. I feel like it's going to be the latter part of January. If there is some kind of, if Trump is ruled against by the Supreme Court, but they don't roll back the tariffs, which again they're not going to do. If they don't roll back the tariffs, but then at the same time they say no, they're null and void, then Trump has to pivot to these other clauses or articles. I can't remember which term is relevant. They'll have to pivot to these others and use them and then go back to court. But again, that could cause a hit. And so if you're in leverage or margin, you could get really hit. So just be smart about it. But as Peter DiCarlo said in here, Amazon's got a good looking chart. I mean, NVIDIA's got a good looking chart. These all are true. There's a lot of good looking charts, guys, in the AI sector. Elon put here that Grok, or Mario actually said this, Grok went to therapy and came out chiller than the rest. What does this mean? Turns out AI models have mental health profiles, and Grok's doing great. Psych eval recap. Grok showed healthy coping, humor, and charismatic exec vibes. ChatGPT played anxious, intellectual. Gemini maxed out on shame, disassociation, and depression. Wow. Models called red teaming, gaslighting at industrial scale, and training trauma. Claude straight up refused therapy, proving this isn't baked in. Frontier AI is reflecting us back sometimes way too clearly. So again, it just reflection on how different models are doing different things. Phil Roberts, batteries everywhere in the data center, by the side of the data center, on the connection to the data center, on the grid above the connection, at the generating plant. Are you getting it yet? In, on, feeding it, generating for it, in, on, feed, generating everywhere, EOC. I do agree that batteries are going to be everywhere. I like the fact that EOS is a company that is really American-made. They've got debt, lots of debt. They're growing like fucking crazy. If we look over here, you can see that. Like product revenue went up a lot. There's stuff that I don't like though, right? Like negative free cash flow that's high. Commercial pipeline's growing like crazy though. Their debt is higher. You can see that over here. They've been diluting their shareholders. These are all negative things. Negative net income of $641 million off of $30 million in revenue. Sucks. But if you look at some of the estimates of what's coming for revenues, it gets better. And so there's definitely a huge build out phase for this company right now. The stock has done really well and then suffered a little bit. If you look over in the corner, this was a stock that was at $3.84 in June. And then went all the way up to $19. So people did really well, right? $5 or 5x. But now it's retracing. I think it could still consolidate. I do think I have like 50,000 plus on this one. I think it could consolidate. I'm not too worried about it right now. But this is interesting, right? And Jigar Shah said, just talked to a utility today. This is another one I was going to segue into, actually. And 8 to 16-hour batteries to accelerate data center connection to the grid. There's going to be a lot of this. New transmission services required by FERC's order on co-location today. So again, the government is actually pushing for batteries. This isn't a popular narrative that people seem to understand, but they might have pushed you away from EVs, but they're pushing you towards batteries. So I don't know. This is going to be interesting. And Jesse Pelton, he's somebody who talks a lot about energy. He gets retweeted by Elon a lot. He's also said America is going to need so many batteries. So I am interested on EOS or EOSE. I am interested in that and what they're going to be able to accomplish. I still think it's early innings. If they keep going down, I'm probably going to look to buy more. I think Intel is going to do a lot better in the years ahead because of their new leadership and government support directive. I'm not going to play this one right now, but I do recommend that you watch it. I don't think people are paying attention to the fact that Intel is getting pulled along greatly right now in the chip sector. Dario, you'd already be up $20 million. You sold Tesla in December 2024 and rolled it into June calls when Tesla dumped to 20. We should have reloaded the same calls with profits. Yeah, I mean, hindsight's always 2020. I could have made a fortune off of Meta. I could have made a fortune off of Tesla calls. I could have made a fortune off EOS. I could have made a fortune off of Palantir. I could have made a fortune off of Robinhood. I actually made 1,600%. You could have done that off of SoFi. It's done really great. There's always opportunities and hindsight's 2020, right? Like I could have made a fortune off of MicroStrategy. I could have made a fortune off of MetaPlanet. There's so many things you could have made a fortune off of. And I don't know. I'm still happy. I'm up over 20x in the last several years. So life is still good. I'll survive. Andre Steno Larson, major broad-based sell-offs typically do not happen when everyone is already insured against the risk. So this is talking about, this is the CDS. So this is the insurance basically for Oracle. So everybody is insured on Oracle's collapse. So what he's saying is it's probably not going to collapse. And I agree with that. And again, we got the whole TikTok deal thing getting closer to. Yeah, I just don't see it happening anytime soon. Mikey, nice. Looks like I have gifted membership. Thank you. Yep, you can thank Mandy for that. Elon Musk, the future is going to be amazing with AI and robots enabling sustainable abundance for all. I agree. Elon Musk, Grok has made a lot of progress from barely registering a year ago. So this is just showing how most used models, Grok Code Fast 1, 16 trillion tokens. Claude Sonnet 4 came in next at 9.77. Gemini came in next at 9.16. And then again, Claude and DeepSeek. This is for Open Router. There's a lot of different metrics you can look at when it comes to AI, but XAI is doing really well on all of them. All right, Mark. While the accelerating demand for compute is real and not showing any signs of slowing down, it's still early days in AI development and proliferation throughout the global economy. Iron has a 3 gigawatt of secured power available for over 1 million GPUs. 5.8 billion NVIDIA latest GPUs on order being delivered by Dell. So again, they've got the GPUs coming, and they've got the power, which is probably why they're doing so good right now. Somebody said CleanSpark is greater than Iron. Potential returns might be. That's probably true. And just a reminder, even me, Kevin, said Oracle says reports of delayed data centers are fake news for Oracle. I don't know what else we have here, if there's anything else new. Yeah, that's probably good. Bitminer added more Ethereum. That does not surprise me at all. Oh, here, I want to go to Tesla, actually. Tesla. There we go. Whole Mars Catalog says, I wouldn't want Chinese self-driving cars recording everything that happened on our roads for training. I agree. So Uber says it's teaming up with Baidu to trial driverless taxis in the UK. Again, Europe doesn't seem to care about getting overrun. Ray for Tesla posted this. He posted, I'm so happy to see Rivian reaching partial autonomy, which is similar to Tesla's autopilot I started to experience 10 years ago. Competition is coming. He's kind of making a joke, right? And my joke was Rivian is hot on Tesla's tail. So I put the sloth from Zootopia. I think it was Zootopia. The son of the walkie, breaking, Tesla increased robotaxi registration by 1,000% in California. Now it's 1,655 vehicles. Probably something. And I just reposted this. Again, I think this year we're going to see $900 Tesla. I think next year we could see $1,600, $1,700 Tesla by the end of 2027. This would be a huge increase. That's no small statement. 123% is what I'm calling for, roughly, just to get to that first stage by the end of this year. So a doubling of Tesla is pretty sweet. And then a 300% increase if I'm right about what happens by the end of 2027. Could drift into 2028, though. Who knows? But that's a big number because Tesla's market cap right now is what? 1.6 trillion. So a 300% increase is no small accomplishment. It is making it, I don't know if that's closest. That probably isn't the largest company in the world by 2027, but it's close. All I want for Christmas is more Tesla shares. Feel that, brother? The EOS balance sheet is terrible. Not sure more growth really helps that. Not for me. The balance sheet doesn't look good. You're right. But that's why I'm not interested in buying a lot of it right now. But the growth rate is going to be sick. And if they are, that balance sheet can turn around a lot in the next year. If batteries really are coming on board a ton. I've got more invested, though, in Enphase. Decent amount more. I think 3x more. Farzad said FSD should collapse the cost of auto insurance. If injuries, deaths go down by 90%, then the cost to insure would be way lower. I agree. It's actually going to have a huge impact. And how popular is Tesla's robotaxi? Well, let's just look here. Last 24 hours of robotaxi availability. This was on December 20th. Again, you're kind of near the holidays, so maybe it's a little bit more, but just look at this. Look at that. Just red, just like no availability. Again, this is why they're spinning up. And there's something funny, guys. I posted this December 19th before there was a huge outage in California, but I said, Waymos are missing a brain. Tesla has no competition. I got a bunch of flack for that. There's always people that tell me, some guy has an engineer friend that told me that it's really awesome. I don't remember. Has an engineer friend that said that Waymo is great and it's actually better technology, guys, just so you know. What was funny about that is like 12 hours later, this shit happens. I don't want to get copyrighted, but basically all the Waymos in California or in San Fran where the power went out, all just fucking died. Now, this is sketchy as fuck. It makes me wonder how many of these are remotely driven by people. Either way, they shouldn't have this problem. They should be able to drive with their own. They should have their own stack that they're able to drive off of, right? And they didn't. And Teslas were not impacted by this. So it's funny that I made the comment just like maybe 6 hours earlier about how Teslas don't have, or how Waymos don't have brains. And then they literally all fucking die while the Teslas do well. Love it. To the 652 people that are here, I appreciate you guys. If you guys could hit like, I know it's not the numbers I used to pull in, but I do appreciate everybody that's still here. You guys are great. So need you to make up the slack. Oh, these are old. Oh, this is new though. So Sawyer Merritt was talking about a new Tesla patent. Again, they're just trying to do things to be able to like get rid of the sun's glare and make it to where the cameras do an even better job. This is probably an easy upgrade in existing Teslas too. So that's awesome. I think that's it for Tesla. I'm going to jump into the Trump section just for a little bit here, just to talk about a few things. So we know now, guys, that the last election was fraudulent and it was stolen. We could see this in a number of ways. Biden won Georgia by 11,779 votes. We knew there was a lot of weirdness that went around the Atlanta and the Georgia area as far as voting and just everything that was happening. But now we know 5 years later that they admit that 315,000 votes in Georgia were actually counted illegally. So Biden never won the election. I just want to be clear on that. I voted for him that time because I was a fucking idiot. But he never won. Joe Lonsdale, at first look, it's baffling. How could Gavin possibly run for president with all this California fraud and waste on his watch? What are we talking about? $32 billion in unemployment fraud, $24 billion in homeless funds lost, $18 billion in non-existent bullet train, $650 million on scrapped 9/11 system. That's a lot of billions. I mean, what is that? 60, 70, almost $80 billion. And he goes, but it's simple, really. And I love Joe. Joe came from Palantir. He's brilliant. He's one of the most brilliant investors. Who profits from all this nonsense? He's proven his worth to bevy of the Democratic interests. And they're excited for him to control even larger purse strings. That's 100% right. They want the corruption. Again, this is the third tanker. It's a beautiful one that we're picking up, guys. If you look right here, very nice, very shiny, full of oil. We're being smart. We're letting them fill up the oil in Venezuela, and then we're confiscating the ships. So I would ask the Shadow Fleet to just keep moving all those ships. We need more ships in the American fleet, and so this is great. We can reuse these ships later to bring all that heavy crude down from Venezuela up to us, and that's exciting. Low viewer numbers is bullish as fuck. It actually is. You're right, Todd. Jared, thoughts about energy generation like CEG? I don't know it well enough. They're talking about taking a reactor offline near me and connecting it up to an AI data center transmission. It could be. I'm trying to figure all of that out. I think the people doing the cogs and the widgets and the interconnects for data centers and for energy generations are going to be the ones that benefit the most. That's why I kind of like the Enphase thing, because they do a lot of stuff like that, right? And I like them, but I don't know this other company, so I'll have to get more information about it, and I'll have to do more research. But like things like Enphase, I love them because nobody's looking at it. So like let's look at EOC here real quick. EOC, let's go back to that first off and just do a comparison here on a few things. So again, just horrific cash flow, horrific net income, massive share dilution, lots of debt, $500 million almost in debt. Revenues are growing like crazy though, and that's good. But look at the retail interest; it's huge, 50%. Now let's look at Enphase. There's a reason why I like these guys, right? Because so there's a few things. Let's look at a few things. Key charts. Energy generation, solar deployment. So Enphase's solar deployment has been pretty steady. Tesla hasn't even reported it anymore. They stopped. You can see where these guys got crushed by revenue, but their operating expenses have trended down. Their revenue has started to go up. There's a few things I like about this. Sentiment. Let's go to sentiment. News sentiment, bearish. Analyst sentiment, neutral. Earnings sentiment, bullish. I like that. I don't hate that. Let's go to extended. So sentiment, social media interest has never been lower on this investment, which I love. X-Twitter sentiment is starting to get bullish. Very bullish, it says. StockTwits is starting to get bullish, but again, social media as a whole is low. Activity, we're not seeing any big selling by people that own the stock. We're seeing institutional ownership grow. We're seeing shares held short has maintained pretty steady. Short interest is 24%. I like that setup. Retail ownership, again, just very low. Estimates, they're just chop. So they're not gauging this as rates are going to come down. And if rates come down, that's when this thing, ask Grok what happens to Enphase if rates come down significantly. It'll give you some good numbers. And again, price to sales ratios, look at how highly this was valued in 2021. It had a 41.8 price to sales ratio. What is it sitting at now? 2.7. Pretty washed out. EV to sales ratio, same thing. Again, just washed out. So I like this in regard to the fact that it is completely washed out. And again, other ratios, PE ratio is sitting at like, it's got a forward PE, I think in the 17s range. We'll look at that in a second. But you can see where it's been quite a bit higher. It had a Tesla rating of like, Tesla was this way too. Tesla had like a 1400 PE, I think at one time. These guys had 450. But what I love now is that revenue, again, starting to increase. Net income still positive. Cash flow has been going down. But again, these guys have been buying back shares. Their balance sheet looks better. They've got low debt. They've lowered their debt. They've got bonds. What are they sitting on? $1 billion in bonds, collecting 4%. So they've been managing their expenses and getting them lower. So I like that. I like the fact that the forward PE is 17. I think this is interesting to me. And again, these guys, United States revenue has been going up. International was actually going down, which I find fascinating. I don't totally understand that. So there's probably something to learn there. But I like this setup. It feels pretty clean. And so I like that. Jesse, when the government injects money into the markets like today, is it one big buy in the morning? No, it's nothing like that. They're injecting money into the markets. They're doing buying. I want to say, what were they doing? Were they buying mortgage-backed securities or were they buying actual stock investments? Do you guys know in chat? But no, it's not like that. Todd Murray, EOS is my second largest position and I'm still buying, but for those scared of debt burden, consider TTI, solid balance sheet, and will grow along with EOS as a key player. That's interesting. All right, I'll try and take a look at that one. If not, remind me again, sir. So again, in Wokeness put Lawrence, Massachusetts is about 85% Hispanic. This is the mayor of Lawrence, and he's got a translator that speaks with him. How the fuck? Like, I could get this. If you're in Rio Grande Valley, right on the border with Mexico, I could get this. But how does this work in Massachusetts?
The division has a concern and has raised an objection based on the fact
the mayor has to have an interpreter for every decision they're making. This is just fucking nuts. And we shouldn't have cities in Massachusetts that have an 85% Hispanic population. I'm sorry. This is not America at that point, especially when the mayor doesn't speak fucking English. So I'm going on a little bit of a tirade here. New York Fed schedules $6.8 billion Treasury bill purchase today. Yes. But do you know what they're buying? I don't remember off the top of my head. A little foggy today. Again, I almost shit my pants. It's been a tough day. Matt, I will never forget the day that Doge discovered that FEMA was spending $59 million to house illegal aliens in luxury hotels in New York City, all while FEMA nearly kicked out 3,000 Americans from their hotel rooms in the dead of winter in western North Carolina after Hurricane Helene. This was the way government was being managed before. I don't care what your political spectrum is within the Republican Party, or maybe you're not even in it. This is just wrong. There's so many things that have been upside down in this world, and we're fixing them. And I encourage you to remember that. Remember that the border is closed. Remember that we were putting people in luxury hotels that didn't fucking belong here, and we were kicking people out, that were freezing, that lost everything. Remember that. It's important that you do. Jeffrey Mead, my brother from another mother, he said, who you vote for absolutely matters. This guy down here whacked this woman
75-year-old Jeanette Marcus
with a
standing
stick.
on the corner, and police say this is
She's
Folly
75.
Pea, walking up.
Think of I don't know how old you are, but think of your mother, think of your grandmother, think of this happening to them.
With a stick in his hand, when out of nowhere, he attacks her. Jeanette.
He whacks her, she falls to the ground. This piece of shit stabbed one person 8 fucking times. He also, what else did he do here? This woman might lose her eye due to the result of this fail. Not just that, he stabbed another woman with a fucking nail in the eye. This guy has been arrested so many times. The police said he's normally a puncher, but sometimes he stabs people. How the fuck is this guy out? Put these people in prison. This is what we should be doing. It's time to do the right thing. Also, illegal immigrants have been taking massive amounts of welfare. They're in blue. Legal are in green. My discussion is I think illegal need to go, all of them, because they're taking the largest share. I'm okay with legal immigrants getting a little bit more to help them get started in the country, but maybe that shouldn't be the case either. But these motherfuckers need to go because they're taking everything. And we don't need to be a welfare state for people that shouldn't be in this country to begin with. That's my take. Elon Musk, why is the legacy media so racist? Before George Floyd, this says, after George Floyd's death, how did media coverage change coverage of race? Shares of articles that mention an offender's race before and after May 25th of 2020. So blacks, afterwards, they cut it down in half. Whites, they doubled it. So they're trying to change the perception of who's doing crime. Doesn't seem very nice. David Sachs is going to get the fuck out of California. He put message received to these dipshits that put people over billionaires. So he said message received. He was talking about this on the All In Pod too. He's probably leaving California. President Trump posted this, just talking about going after Ilhan Omar. That's old. December 20th. If you pay organizations per homeless person, you get more homeless people, and the NGOs fight hard to maximize the homeless population. Whatever you incentivize, you will receive. There's so much irony here in this guy. Like, you got homeless people eating gruel, and then you got Gavin Newsom walking by. But it was talking about the $24 billion and homeless and how the population is increased because everybody has an incentive to get more homeless people into the market. I don't know. I think I'm done here. There's probably not much. There's a lot of other things happening, but I think I'm done. Our Colorado, let's see here. I'm going to get caught up on comments real quick. Jesse, the governor injects money into the markets like today. It's one big buy in the... Oh, that was your question, yeah. J Duff said our Colorado government and power companies are shutting off electricity right now in the dead of winter. Thank God it's not a harsh winter this year. They forced us to go all electric, and they're shutting... Yeah, that's so fucking stupid. So fucking stupid. That's what Europe's done. Colorado, man. It's so weird when you're driving down the interstate and you look over and you see some houses in a cul-de-sac, but then there's the cul-de-sac isn't actually houses. The houses stop near the cul-de-sac. The cul-de-sac is all homeless tents. Imagine owning a fucking home next to a bunch of homeless tents. Are you going to be able to sell that? Why do people on the left, why are they so fucking retarded when it comes to economics and managing their civilization? Why do you think you should put people back on the streets that are going to blind a 75-year-old woman or murder fucking people or set women on fire or fucking stab them and when they're on the bus just trying to go back from their normal ass job when they leave Ukraine because of the war and they come here and they love this fucking country and they have Black Lives Matters fucking posters and stickers and things in the background, and then they get murdered by assholes who want to kill them because of the color of their skin. And we condone this. We encourage it because white people bad. You should take things from them. It's just absurdity. I will always be a Martin Luther King kind of guy who believes in meritocracy and believes that you judge people not by the color of their skin or their sexual orientation, but by their merit. And that's what we need to get back to, and we're going to do it. I strongly believe that. Rory, Jesse, there are so many applications for graphene, U.S. military, Tesla, etc. 2x100 stronger than steel, lightweight, HGRAF. I wish I had my fucking... I need to jot some of these down real quick before I forget. I got this new writing tablet that I got. It's like the Scribe thing from Amazon. It's fucking awesome. I don't have it here right now, though. I do need to spend time looking at other investment opportunities, though. Dario Ferraro. Jesse, what stocks are we buying if they drop into support levels for Tesla Hood, etc.? Any other names you're watching to step in on? Again, I like Enphase a lot. I think Tesla is just getting ready to break out. Let's look at charts. We'll do that before I go. So Tesla, again, we're breaking out of a 4.5-year trend. Just like this one. Arguably, it's longer than all of them. We're just breaking out of it. So I would argue that we tried to break out, went down, went over here again, it broke down again, created kind of this inverse head and shoulder, W bottom pattern type thing. And now we're getting ready to launch. And I think, again, the conservative goal is that we get to, 100% increase and we get in the 950 range by the end of this next year. Of course, a doubling isn't a lot of money for some people, so maybe you don't care about this, but I think this is an easy win. This is the safer bet. It was one that would have done really well this last year. I also think MicroStrategy is still cheap, and Metaplanet is still cheap. It depends on what happens with this MSCI thing, but I don't think it's really relevant to a lot of these treasuries. But they might get walloped. MSTR is down 68+% from where it is in pre-market after going up 4% last week and another 3% in pre. This is definitely a bottoming pattern. This is a beautiful technical pattern. Large market cap though, 47 billion. Not as large as Tesla at 1.6, but I like it. ASST, I do like that too, but you just got to remember, guys, there's warrants on this for $1.35 that expire, I think the end of this next, well, no, probably like Q4, early Q4. So you got to remember, so that creates some price pressure that could keep this underneath this range, but that's still a 44% upside that you could be seeing on this one. But if we get back to like $1.35, it might stay there for a while. This is one that I actually want to stack. So if I do really well in other things, I'm probably going to stack more into this. It's down a shit ton from its high, but again, just stupid valuation here in September of 2025 when it was at $12.81. And then it just got crushed, came back up, closed the gap, got crushed some more. But it naturally wants to go to that 135 range. 44% upside. But again, you could be taking a breather for a while before this thing really starts to go up again. I do think Strive's management is brilliant. And I know my buddy Mike Alfred is a big fan of it. But he's looking at it for a longer term play. But I like that one quite a bit. EOC, again, I think it still has some downside. I want to look at, I'm going to show you just all these other things that I think are going to do really well, guys, in the next year. ARCG, if we get any kind of speculation, this thing is just going to go fucking crazy. This is one where my calls have bled down. It's still down 74% from where it was over 4 years ago. My calls haven't done great because, again, they were better up here when it was at 34. Then it dropped way down to 25 or 26 or something. It's gotten better, but they're still suffering. They retreated a little bit again recently. But if these get back up, if this thing does do 100%, like I think it's going to do over this early part of the next year, I'm going to make a 10x off of that. I could make $4 million just off of this play. So even though my account sucks right now from this play and others from options, this is one of the few options trades I have right now. This goes out until, let me see, when do I have the calls going out to? I've got them staggered. I've got most of the money sitting in June or I shouldn't say most, but a decent amount in June of 2026. So I'm thinking that we could actually get that big boom by that middle part of the year. Then I got another big chunk, probably like 30% of it going out to January of 2027. And then I've even got calls in January of 2028. I will add to those if this doesn't go anywhere, because I think genomics is just going to do really good. So I'll probably add to the farthest one out. We're establishing a base over the 200 moving average after breaking out of a downtrend that, I mean, again, we found our support. We wicked underneath, which is great. You want the overshoot. Then we rocketed straight up. We back tested all the way down to the previous resistance line. We got back above that really quickly, and now we're above the 200 moving average. What we really need to do is establish our base up here above the 32 range. When we do that, I think it's a real quick trip, at least until the 39 range. And then again, I think we could get all the way up to the 60s. I think this is coming soon. I'm excited about that play too. I still think TLT is grinding and it's going to do well. Metaplanet, again, breaking out. All these things that have been so painful for so long are finally starting to get their moments. If Bitcoin does well, I could see Metaplanet do really well too. And again, the ciphers, the IRENs, all these things are looking strong. Let's just pull up Cypher here. They're looking very bouncy, right? Like this is looking pretty bouncy getting up to here. I would love to get really to confirm this move in this one, get up to the 18 range. That could happen by next week. So I think you just got to think about that. This thing did drop pretty far. What did we get on this one? We dropped 50%. So that was a decent amount. That was a decent move. So Cypher, I think, could still do really well. These HPC plays, I think, are going to have their moment in the sun. Clean Spark looks good, too. I don't know if I have that one up in front of here, if I pulled it up in another one. Maybe I already looked at it. Again, Iron just looks sick. Getting back above this line is a great... This trend line here, guys, goes back a ways. Again, touch point here, touch point here, touch point, touch points. Broke above it. Kind of a blow off top. Drop down hard, 57%. But now if we close above this line and really get above like the 44 range anytime soon, then that's just clarity that we're going to go back up again. I think that's wonderful. I like to see that. BMNR, let's look at that one and see how it's doing. BMNR, this is actually kind of fascinating. We are above, this red line is the peak in volumes. We are above that right now. I could see us getting to 37 really quickly. And then again, we don't really hit volume until 46. But you could start to see if Ethereum does really well, you could see this getting better. But again, there's downside risk. If Ethereum doesn't do well, this thing is going to get butchered over the short term. So this is maybe one you don't want to hold too long into the early part of January if we do get some of that downside risk that Steve Farrell and the FS Insight team were talking about. There's others too, but I think, again, I think genomics with ARKG, I think is great. I do think TLT will have its time. It has sucked. I told you guys I was probably early to that one. I definitely am. It has kind of rolled over from over here. I do think it's finding its base. It's probably going to find its base real soon and get back above like 88. And then we'll have our opportunity. Once people realize that yield curve control is in play, we're going to do really well. How do you see Bitcoin playing out the next year? I see Bitcoin at a bare... I mean, honestly, man, it's probably going to be the good year. That 200,000 that that we heard Tom Lee talking about, it's going to do that. 180 to 200,000. I could see that. Now, what I don't know is, do we go up to here or here and then drop down with some fears of a head and shoulder and get down to 70K, kind of like they were talking about? Do we do that? Maybe. And again, they were talking about that realized cost basis. That also ties in with the 200 weekly moving average. So Bitcoin doesn't spend a lot of time under the 200 weekly moving average. It did over here, but again, that was the end of the bear market cycle. I don't think we're like that right now. It didn't over here, right? It barely did over here with the pandemic. It spent a little more time underneath here, but I would argue that was because the most aggressive rate increase on rates, and one of them in history. And so it kind of pulled us down and kept us down, I would say, just a little bit harsher than we would have been. So do we do something where we have this boom up to here, right? And then a head and shoulders, and then we crash? Maybe. That's kind of what Steve Farrell is worried about, right? And then we have our big moment where everybody's like, "Oh fuck, it's good again, guys." And then we go way the fuck up. That's possible. That's possible. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Or it could just, again, I think everybody's looking for this. Everybody's looking for either down a little bit more and then up. But the people that look out even further, everybody's looking for a head and shoulders on this and then a big dump. So it could happen, but maybe it won't happen just because everybody's looking at it and the market dynamics start to improve and everybody gets excited about stuff. And then they're like, shit, I don't want to be in gold anymore because the market looks healthy. And gold is at 44.22. Yardini Research, he's great. And Yardini Research is great. He said that his goal for the end of 2026 was 5,000. We're already at 4,400 right now. He said he might have to raise it a little bit, but if you've made a 3x on gold, do you really care about making like an extra 10 to 20%? Or if you see the global economy, or I should say at least the US economy, starting to fire off after the first half of this year, and you see it getting better and improving, you see unemployment getting better, you see GDP getting better, you see productivity getting better, you see everything getting better across the economy. You see manufacturing coming back. You see the real estate market starting to kick off because of yield curve control. Do you want to be sitting in gold? Fuck no, you don't. So I think this is the opportunity that Bitcoin was looking for, and I think that's when we're really going to take off. So do we get the pump and then the dump and then that? I don't know. I think you should be prepared for that, though. So maybe what you do, again, looking over here in the corner, and I know I pulled this off the smaller screen, but maybe what you do to be smart is you prepare for this. And so when if we get to 96, where you see peak volume over here, 96 to this next fib at like 98, 99, maybe you take a little bit off the table, right? If you're a trader or have a shorter time horizon, or if you're in margin or leverage of any kind, take some off the table. If we get up here, where again, you can kind of see where this would be a resistance zone because it was previous support, and then over here it was resistance. If we get up to here, around the 105 to 8,000 range, maybe take a little more off. Get yourself out of leverage for sure, man. And that way, if we drop, you can capitalize off that shit. But if you got a long time horizon, I would say just fucking chill. And because we could just go up. And if we get up to here, if we get up to 120, then it's game over because that head and shoulder is probably not happening. And Bitcoin deserves its opportunity. Again, gold over 30 trillion, approaching $31 trillion. Bitcoin 1.71. Which one do you want to own? It's easy for me. I'm going to take the one that's 1/17th, 1/18th the size. That's the one I'm going to fucking do. You can let Peter Schiff bask in his glory for another couple months, maybe for half a year. But if the economy starts to take off and things are actually good, like I think they're going to be, the Art Laffer playbook, and maybe I'll do a separate video, a standalone video where I show what happened with Ronald Reagan's presidency as far as the timeline of events with the Art Laffer playbook and just big macro stuff, and then what happened with the market afterwards, so that I can kind of correlate that with what I see happening this time. Maybe I'll do something like that. But I really strongly believe in that playbook, and I think it's going to turn out really, really well. And Scott Bessent does too. Donald Trump does. Major economists do. Some of the most brilliant investment people I listen to do. All of them are on the same playbook of earnings are going to be really good again. Q4 is going to be really good. Q1 is probably going to be really good. Q4 is going to be double digit. Maybe Q1 is too. The levels of growth we saw in the 80s after the pro-growth policies was just fucking sick. Again, thank you to Manny for the 50 memberships and also, too, for the $5 gift. I forget who that was, but thank you, sir. Basil, I'm still in GGLL and TSLL since April. What should I do? I would not want to be in 2X funds right now. If you've done really good on Tesla, man, I mean, let's just look at Tesla again. And I've said this for a while. I just don't want to be in 2X funds, and I got out of that shit a while ago. Tesla would have treated you fairly well, but I mean, again, this thing went from, in April, it went from 213 or 218 all the way up to 500. Is it just going to be straight up? It might not be. And I would not want to get ground to fucking death off of 2X funds. They're inefficient. They're shitty. I'm never going to touch them again. I'll never touch a 2X or a 3X fund again in my life. I should have known better. I was just being lazy. And laziness doesn't work out very well when you've got a shorter time horizon like the last part of this last year, and you're being greedy. And I think that's what happened. So I wouldn't own it personally. But again, you do you. It's not financial advice. I love you guys. I'm probably done for the day. Market opens up in 19 minutes. I'm going to go take some medicine because I feel like shit. And I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas and a wonderful time. And I'm probably going to be here next Monday. So I can't remember what that is. What is Monday? Is Monday a holiday? I don't know. We'll see. I love you guys, though, and I will talk to you later. And I hope you do well here between now and the end of the year. Peace out.